circle, and we do have, this is a circle jig with a router mounted on it. We could have adjusted this, set it up, and spun it around, and it would make pretty close to a perfect circle. Problem is, that may not be a perfect circle. It's cut for this template, so I always use the template. On some cases, we have had to use circle jigs before the manufacturer starts supplying their own, or maybe it's one that you've made yourself, things like that.
There it goes.
Oh, thank you. On this one, I'm trying to show you somewhat of a retrofit, where you don't know where all the nails are, you don't have much choice on where it's going in. You know that we were originally going to do it on this panel over here, and we marked it out so they wouldn't hit it. Well, we marked it out on this one and never kept track of where we marked it, so that didn't help us much. But when you're going into a home and they want a medallion, this would, obviously your main concern is, you know, the floor was nailed down and you might run into those. These are what they call earth magnets. And we just send them around the edge to let us know, and then we mark it where we're going to hit a nail. That's just so I don't soil my pants when I hit it, okay? We just went around like that and marked each spot where there was. There's another one. Again, these are really handy, something that you often see inspectors use, because they can take it along here and they can find your nailing schedule. Just as a for instance, on these two boards, we want between 8 and 10 inches apart because it's strip flooring, so that's good. We want one from 1 to 3 inches of the end, so that's good. Inspector would just, he'd be just smiling. Okay, here we've got a board 1 to 3 inches from the end, and the other thing it says in our specs is you must have at least 2 cleats per board. All right. It doesn't take much for an inspector to check out a floor to see whether you've done it correct. Now, if you laid floors 30 years ago, it wasn't unusual to nail every other row. All right? Being paid production, whoever knew the difference. Well, obviously the floors don't always hold up that way, and there could be a lot of difference.
Hey, Frank, I got a question for you. How come everybody always talks about skip row nailing and everything?
Yes, sir.
All the floors I ripped up, I've never found. I always find a guy that uses steel reinforced boards. Bringing nails every 3 inches. Never found a skip row nail in all renovations that I did.
I will tell you, it was more predominant in the 60s when it was being put down for subfloors.
When you're ripping up old floors, you never find a skip row floor. Anybody ever find a skip row floor?
We have.
Oh, yeah. Oh, plenty.
I always find ones that are nailed every 3 inches with staples.
It's always one or the other.
Oh,
It's either like you have, or it's they skip every 3 rows.
Yeah.
It's nice to find one when you pull it up.
Yeah, when you pull it up, it's nice. You know, it's when you got to weave it back in and match their pattern and everything's moved. Good God Almighty.
Couple of things that I like to do. See this hole that I have bored there? That gives me a place to set my router so I don't have to plunge it down through the wood. I can just set it in there and pull it to my pattern each time that I adjust it lower. You don't do this in one pass. I put a template bit on the router. These are template bits. See where the bearing is here at the top? That bearing is going to follow along on this, and this is going to plunge straight down.
And check the set screw, be sure it's set on the bearing.
Yes. Do be careful with these things. I have double checked this a couple of times, make sure it's cinched down well and all that. I usually cut a little piece of the pattern just so that I can calibrate. If you take a look there, it looks like I'm going to cut down about 1/8 of an inch. I like to make that first cut fairly shallow to get a nice crisp edge. All right, this is fairly soft wood, oak. I may have been able to go down to a quarter. I always go down, at one point, I stop at a 1/4 inch and try to shave off the top of the nails so I can pound them in. That makes sense? That's where I know my nail line is. So I've got it set there for about 1/8 of an inch, and I'm gonna make a pass. Before we do that, we're gonna show you, this is a corner jig. Oh, it's hard to explain how I'd use that. But
Why don't you get the other template over here?
give me that template there and I'll show you. Essentially, we're talking about if we routed this out, there'd be a little rounded spot there that we couldn't get. This, see this little ridge here? Just set that back right there. Tap it down and that corner's gone. And it's a perfect corner, all right? Could you do it each way with a chisel? Of course, but these are handy. All right, we're gonna get on to cutting this out. I may need that, huh?
You got nails in there, don't you?
Yes,
You
sir.
wanna set 'em, or you wanna hit them with your head?
I'm gonna cut down to them, boss. Which one's you talking about?
No, when you get down and expose them, you want to set them?
Certainly, absolutely. You can control this cord for me too. Okay. Again, I've got this set so that I'm gonna plunge about 1/8 inch into it.
Clockwise.
Always from right to left. So I'm gonna go clockwise. You guys move this stuff out of here. Probably those edgers there too. All I'm doing now is just getting my area so that I can swing around here and not hurt myself. Or others. I don't like this particular router, but I'm using it. One thing I was always taught to address my router. To address it means to look at the nameplate, because there's usually a guide here, and then I'd run it. But these Mohicans have decided to put the cord going out this way, right in my way all the time. So I just run it in reverse, all right, keep the cord out of my way. It'll run the same way. You wouldn't have the fancy little guard here, but it works. What I'm going to do is set it. This is the worst switch in the world. There are routers with these adjustments on it. Guys that get good at these, they can set all 3 adjustments. They don't even have to think about it. They just flip it a little bit and go down the next route. This one isn't quite as easy, but it's no big deal, really. Again, this time here, I'm shooting for about a 1/4 inch.
Boss. Trisha says hi.